Welcome back, everyone, to Reimagine 2021 V8. This is our eighth conference event. My name is Roshan Mirakar. I'm one of your hosts for this event. Really excited to be here today with a returning guest. And our theme for this event is state of the art chain. So we're exploring the impact of NFTs, content creators, and really the future of, I would say, monetary worth, whether that's social or other means that I'm excited to cover today. I'm excited to be joined here by a returning guest. With me, I have Andrew Levine, who's the CEO of the Koinos Group. Andrew, welcome back to the show. How has it been since the last time we spoke to you? And to get started off with, let's just go over a little bit of your background.
Sure. Yeah, it's been an exciting, wild year, culminating actually today in a really important milestone, which is the release of the developer preview of the Koinos testnet. I'm sure we'll talk more about Koinos as the conversation unfolds, but it's the last many months of really challenging work to build the world's first blockchain with a microservice architecture capable of powering the first blockchain with free accounts, free transfers, and free smart contracts. This is just the beginning. It's a little taste of the test net, and it will evolve into the main net. But yeah, so today's a really important day for us. My background is that I worked with my co-founders of the Koinos Group at Steemit. That's where I got involved in the blockchain space, actually as a community manager. My teammates and co-founders at Koinos Group were the core developers of the Steem blockchain, which at one time was the most used blockchain in the world, had over $1 billion market cap, and was powering Steemit.com, which was like a Reddit clone, but powered by a blockchain. And so people could post content to that blockchain, vote on content, and then tokens would be distributed based on the voting behaviors of the users. And that blockchain is still operating. It's got a sizable market cap. And there's even a fork of that called Hive, which is also predominantly based on our work. And that is more of the spiritual successor of our work. That's a community-led fork of the Steem blockchain. And that's also doing pretty well, has a decent level of adoption. And we learned a lot over the course of 5 years working on that blockchain, taking it through 23 hard forks that were a nightmare, and wound up being a massive blocker on progress. And so once we left that project and we're trying to figure out what we would do next, we decided that what we wanted to do was to build a platform that applications like Steem could eventually migrate to, and that would enable them to be rapidly upgradable and fully scalable. And so that's what we've been building with Koinos. And if you were to go to the GitHub and download our developer preview of the testnet, you'd be able to see the beginnings of that platform in operation, and containing many of the most critical innovations that will enable next generation decentralized applications to not only scale, but also to actually get better and better and better over time, as opposed to stagnating, which is the norm in the space.
Yeah, that's really interesting for the people that don't know your background. Thanks for covering that, because before we dive deep into Koinos, I know you have a lot of interesting updates there, but just kind of zooming out first, what do you think what is the biggest change you've seen from when you were at Steemit to now? Because I would say that a lot of the work you were doing, maybe it was too early a bit, or you had some early adopters. It seems like now there's tons of demand for similar things. So do you think that like the space in general has matured more, or would you say the I guess the interest is different from when it used to be years ago?
The interest is certainly the biggest change. As far as the types of products that people are delivering to market and stuff, honestly, it's in everything that's old is new again type thing. NFTs, social media powered by blockchain, none of this stuff is new, certainly to us. And the solutions that people are releasing at the moment are not innovative, and in fact are several years behind as far as we're concerned, 3 to 5 years behind what is already in Koinos. They're storing content in active blockchain state. That's a huge mistake. NFTs on existing platforms are not scalable because they add to blockchain state, which is incredibly expensive. And so you have people launching who don't understand the history, who haven't done the research into the protocols that have already been launched and are even operational, and are clearly making the exact same mistakes that we made. But yeah, certainly it's the interest, it's the amount of capital that's coming in, and that's great. But what's still missing is a platform that can deliver something new to the space that Ethereum can't.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of the different protocols or blockchains that you mentioned, they've been around for a really long time. But you might know even better, like as far as like from for the developers out there, or I would say a lot of people, watching this right now, they don't necessarily even understand, I guess, what do blockchain developers really do, or what are some of the important considerations? Not to get too technical, but like what are you sort of thinking about while you're developing something brand new to kind of rival what's out there? Like, what's important to you? Some of the core philosophies that kind of bleed into your product.
Yeah, so our number one core value is what we call developer obsession. So everything we do, we ask, how is this going to make a developer's life better? And so, admittedly, sometimes we will be too technical for people because we are focused on developers. But in my experience, when developers come to the blockchain space, they're almost like an ordinary person because it's so foreign and so different to them that they might as well not be a developer anymore, because they have to learn this whole new way of thinking about their application, and they kind of have to start from the basics. So what we're doing, and where we think there's a big gap, is delivering a platform that developers can just immediately understand and begin using to make their application better. We're not saying, hey, you want to build a decentralized application. Hey, you want to build a blockchain application. Hey, you're an Ethereum developer. Yes, they should be able to use Koinos, but what about the brilliant TypeScript developer who just has a good idea for an app that could benefit from having some of that code run on a decentralized network of computers? That code is called a smart contract, right? So, there's some code within a developer stack that could benefit from not having them run it, but having a diffuse network of people run it. In general, this is going to be stuff like money, fungible tokens, cryptocurrencies, non-fungible tokens. These are things that people want to own, that people want to have price discovery on. And in order to, and that's where blockchain really has superpowers, is it's one of the few technologies that can deliver those features. But those features are still very far outside of the grasp of just a regular developer. And so that's really where we're attacking, is we're saying, what do we need to build? How do we need to build this platform so that that great developer can just get up and running ASAP? And so that's why developer obsession is it's really everything to us. Honestly, nothing else. I will always impose that discipline on the, not that I have to impose the discipline, but you know what I mean? Whenever I see us moving other things up towards, developer in terms of importance. Oh, centralized exchanges. Wouldn't it be great if we were on a centralized exchange? Wouldn't it be great if we were compatible with Ethereum? We're always there going, but is that what an average developer wants? That person with the great idea. Sorry, I just heard some kind of noise.
It's all good.
That's it. I'll stop ranting now about our developer obsession.
No, I think you made some good points. A lot of people think this space is like very, very technical, but what you're saying, I think, is kind of different, because you're saying that you want to bring the normal developers and try to get them to adopt some of the blockchain advantages or trends, which I think is really great. Because one thing that happens in the industry is a lot of people have like groupthink, even among developers, and you're only thinking about the same constraint. So I think definitely welcoming in a new community would probably make our own industry better. And kind of going into that, like going into developers, or how you see community, because obviously you've done your past projects at Steemit that was heavily community focused. What do you think is the current space of, I guess, blockchain participation, I want to say? Do you think that as time goes on, like more people will try to actively participate in these networks? Maybe it's running a node, right? Like kind of like running like a little microservice. Or do you think, like on the flip side, people will get exposed through like blockchain as a service type of thing, that maybe Libra and other like companies, CBDCs? Like, which one do you think, where are we right now in the current spectrum?
Yeah, I certainly hope that blockchain starts touching everybody's life. I think a big bet that we're making is that eliminating fees, we think that eliminating fees is critical to onboarding everyone. And once you eliminate fees, now developers, not only can developers build the decentralized applications that already exist in a way that has a much better user experience. So many more people can use the kind of existing decentralized applications that exist, like Uniswap. You eliminate fees from Uniswap, more people are going to use Uniswap. It's basic economics. But what's even more exciting is all of the apps that will come to market and leverage, that will be built natively for that feelessness that we can't even imagine. We couldn't really imagine Facebook or Amazon or Twitter until the internet delivered that capability. And what would have happened to the internet? What would the level of adoption have been if they had charged fees every time you liked somebody's, stupid Twitter post, or every time you did a Google search? So we think that, yeah, eliminating fees is the key to doing that. It'll open up an entirely new space for entirely different types of applications that will hopefully be able to deliver fantastic user experiences that people can't even imagine yet. We believe that it'll do that through ownership of data. The way that these apps will be able to deliver new features, right? Because that's how technology gets adopted. Do something for me better than the thing that I already have does it. Do it better, do it faster, do it cheaper. Give me something that I'm not getting. And that's ownership is really where blockchains can deliver fantastic value, because they can do that. And so it's really about enabling developers to play with that feature and inject it into their application however they want. And the more freedom they have, the more ability they have to experiment with features, the more likely it will become that 1 out of 100 of these apps will land and somebody will release something that will be tremendously popular for ordinary people.
Yeah, for sure. And that's like the end goal, I think, for even developers, even though they're dealing with more technical issues on like a day-to-day basis, but even their end goal is to continuously make a better user experience, or even I would say design, create better design standards in a way that educates more people so you can actually see what you're doing. I think sometimes that's missing in the space too. Like me personally, I wouldn't say we should hide everything because some things are like um, important. But I want to kind of touch on something you just said about kind of like your development community and the importance of building for them. But you also touched a little bit on NFTs, so I want to dive into that a bit. Kind of like with your background and with everything that's happening with NFTs right now, do you think that NFTs are like the new decentralized social media in terms of how people are exchanging value, or are people just buying these things as collectibles? Because I've seen quite a social twist on these NFTs that are coming out like right now as we speak, right?
Yeah, so NFTs are interesting. They have a ton of potential use cases. At Steemit, we were working on something called smart media tokens, which was a fungible token protocol. But eventually, the goal was to have this fungible token protocol where any community could launch their own fast and feeless digital token, like the Steem token. And then after that, what I wanted us to do was to leverage NFTs to deliver like badges and the other types of user interface elements that gamify social applications. And now I'm even more bullish on the potential use cases for NFTs. They're incredibly powerful, and I think that digital collectibles are, in, in my mind, one of the least interesting use cases for NFTs. The only reason they're so popular is because NFTs are so expensive to create and transfer over existing platforms that only collectibles have the profit margins to justify, to satisfy the economics. So yeah, tremendously powerful, but as is usually the case, the real potential is only realized when the cost is reduced to the lowest possible level. So yeah, there are social implications, but one of my co-founders, Michael Vandenberg, he put it so well. He said, almost none of the things we deal with in the real world are fungible tokens. We basically deal with one fungible token, the US dollar. Almost everything else we deal with in the real world is a non-fungible token. It's something unique. You go to the store and you buy, a bundle of bananas, right? I mean, it's a commodity, we know the price, but each bundle is a little bit different, you know? It might be old, it might be underripe, it might be overripe, it might have 6 bananas, it might have 4 bananas, right? Bonds, treasury bonds are non-fungible tokens, not fungible tokens, right? Receipts are more like non-fungible tokens, and so yeah, they're tremendously powerful, and we have several innovations in Koinos that really deliver the most value in terms of NFTs specifically. But yeah, so we certainly believe in the long-term value of NFTs, but you got to reduce the cost. And so feelessness is part of that. So enabling people to create and transfer NFTs without having to pay fees is step one. So you can make it so you can eliminate the friction. But if the cost is still super high, then you're not really going to be able to do it a lot, right? So there's two sides to it. You got to eliminate the fees, but you also have to eliminate the computational cost. And so that's where the real innovation is how do we eliminate the computational cost so that I can create NFTs and transfer NFTs whenever I want. And if you look at the price of doing that kind of stuff on Ethereum, no one's ever going to, it's really years away from any kind of usable state.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I like to also keep things realistic on the show as well, because a lot of new people that are trying to learn, or even if you have some exposure in the space, like everything we're talking about today is heavily, I would say, usage based, where it's not really speculating on a certain protocol. Like we're just talking, infrastructure and participation. And those things certainly make it tough to participate, like a high barrier of entry, right? But if we put those things aside, like there's been some interesting developments, since you moved on from Steemit in terms of like Reddit adopting, I think like the Reddit coin where you can earn some tokens, while upvoting stuff, and also like kind of going back to NFTs. If we take the cost out of NFTs, like, do you think that people will start to use this interchange in value for micropayments? Because that's one thing I really loved about Steemit, right? Micropayments, like for the first time, you could do these small actions and kind of actually see the result of it. So talk to me a little bit about, some of the features and maybe the Koinos Group, or some things you'd like to see for micropayments to kind of make a comeback, and maybe make some impact on these new people.
Yeah. So, I mean, one thing I've never been able to understand is, and maybe this was just because Steem never really, the biggest challenge that Steem always faced, I think, with the benefit of hindsight, we can see it pretty clearly, is that if you don't have smart contracts, if developers can't run custom code on your blockchain, it's just not going to reach the level of interest and excitement needed for people to even just understand what you're doing. So as far as I understand, Steem had microtransactions. You get rid of fees, you have microtransactions. Now, maybe the other element of it was that because it was delegated proof of stake, and you only have 21 witnesses, the centralization of it makes people feel like they're not real microtransactions. It's basically some kind of subsidized system. And there's actually kind of something to that. We are now of the opinion that delegated proof of stake is far too centralized. Koinos will not leverage delegated proof of stake. It will be a fully decentralized protocol, but it will also be feeless, and it will also have smart contracts. And so you'll have microtransactions on Koinos without NFTs being involved. I'll be able to send you a fraction of coin, any fraction of coin, and it will be the same in terms of cost. The blockchain doesn't care if I'm transferring you 1,000,000 coin or 5 or 0.0001 coin. It does not care. It's a token transfer. It's very computationally inexpensive. And so you could send microtransactions to your heart's content on Koinos. NFTs, you'll also be able to send NFTs, but NFTs are indivisible. So I don't personally really see the connection. It would be like if I want to give you a badge, if I want to give you a crypto kitty because I have it and you want it, I'll send it to you. It won't cost me anything, and it won't cost you anything. We're done. It's pretty easy. I think that might actually connect back into why people didn't understand that Steam had microtransactions, because when you actually have microtransactions, the system just looks like it's working. You're just like, this just works. This is just,
Yeah.
we're not doing microtransactions. We're doing transactions. It's weird. And yeah, I'm personally still debating whether we want to emphasize the microtransactions component of Koinos, because I just don't know if anyone really cares. It's like either it has fees or it works, and it's just like, okay, it works. That's what we're saying.
Yeah. So, kind of having that viewpoint, do you think that obviously you're building infrastructure for the space, and I also want to actually first let's get into like this thing I've never heard about before. You touched on it a little bit, but I kind of want to know like the future of it. And what that is you're trying to build Koinos into a blockchain that's continues to evolve, and your theory is at a faster and more rapid pace than other blockchains. I think many people see blockchain as like this immutable ledger or like this storage device kind of where you just store things and like refer back to them. So I feel like you're taking this really aggressive approach. So how are you so bullish, and like what do you think you need in order to accomplish that? Is it just like the open source community, or why do you think you can go faster and break things?
Yeah, so the number one design constraint uh, that we imposed while developing the Koinos blockchain framework was that it needed to be able to improve at a more rapid rate than any other blockchain. So there was an obsessive focus on a rate of improvement. And what that means is that if given the choice between a less performant blockchain that was capable of more rapid improvement, like if the choice was between high performance at launch versus rapid improvement, we would always lean towards the implementation that allowed for more rapid improvement, as opposed to the one that allowed for higher performance at launch. So we designed Koinos from scratch. It's a totally new blockchain. It's a totally new architecture. And what that means is that as we're building the individual components, and not many teams are capable of doing this, but our team has launched multiple blockchains, has upgraded multiple blockchains, right? So this is one of our unique value propositions, is that we can do this. And so as we're assembling these components, what we're doing is we're asking ourselves, what are the long-term consequences of these decisions? What will this enable? What will that enable? And because we had to go through so many hard forks with Steam, what we were constantly saying to ourselves is, what if we want to change this? What if we want to change that? We know from our experience that you never know where the bugs are. You never know how users will interact with your platform, and you never know what piece of code you will want to upgrade. Everyone will want to upgrade. And so you have to build as if any piece of your code will need to be changed. And it's a total misconception and myth that immutability has anything to do with what we're talking about. Bitcoin can be changed. Ethereum can be changed. In fact, Ethereum is aggressively planning to make changes, and the changes are not endorsed by the majority of people using the platform. But the changes need to be made. Everybody smart knows it, and so they're pushing forward with those. Bitcoin integrated SegWit, these platforms change. The question is, what tools are you creating to make those changes fast and ensure that they're good changes? And so in fact, what you see is that because other platforms aren't architected around upgradability, the changes that do go through aren't good. It's actually worse. So to kind of answer your question, I think what that whole process led to was our decision to move all of the system logic into smart contracts. It's it's a good idea when it sounds simple and obvious. Smart contracts are great. One of the technologies that's emerged since the release of Ethereum is that you can upgrade smart contracts without a hard fork now. You can't do that on Ethereum, but on a number of other blockchains you can. And so what we said was, well, if you can upgrade smart contracts without a hard fork and eliminate this massive bottleneck in the development process, why not move all of the system logic, the consensus algorithm, the governance algorithm, into smart contracts, and then each one of those features, you can upgrade it without a hard fork. Now, it doesn't mean I can choose to upgrade it. There will still be a governance process in place. But in fact, by moving all of that system logic into smart contracts, what we create is an on-chain upgrade path where a system upgrade can be uploaded as an ordinary user smart contract, run in the virtual machine. Governance can look at it, analyze it, audit it, and then vote on it. And because it's just a simple, small change to the system, they can approve it and push it out to the network like an operating system patch. So all that governance has to decide is, do I want to make this one part of the system better? If I don't, I run it as a user contract, that's fine. And so this is what we call modular upgradability. This is what enables improvements to happen so much faster, especially when you consider some of our innovations in terms of multi-language support, something called Koinos types, which is a super innovative solution that nobody will care about. But that will enable people to work in the programming languages that they already know. So a TypeScript developer will be able to come in, see something they don't like about the system, write up a smart contract in TypeScript, and then if it makes the system objectively better, all governance has to do is say, yeah, that makes this better. And if they don't say that makes this better, it won't make it better and it doesn't get approved. So what it's really about is giving governance more options, making it easier for developers to contribute productively, and then give governance the tools to immediately convert those improvements into system logic.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the governance that we see today on many protocols, I wouldn't say there's too many options. You kind of can vote on the predetermined, I guess, polls that exist, or only within the network. I'm really excited to hear that you're building a brand new blockchain. It's very interesting in the sense that since 2017, most projects have come, whether it's Binance or Ethereum, and kind of just either forking existing chains or building upon them. And I haven't heard that many people talk about like kind of maybe like blockchain backlog, right? It's like in the traditional world, you have your AWSs, you have Oracle, whether people like it or not, powers different parts of the infrastructure. But me personally, I do feel that the crypto industry, we don't have that many chains like marginally of what people use or like where a lot of the activity is happening, right? Like when some of these chains get congested, it's because literally too many people are using them at the current time. So tell us a little bit about, congrats on launching your testnet at Koinos literally today. So what can we expect in the next couple of months or even a year for Koinos? Like how can more developers get involved, or even everyday people? Like what's the best way for them to just learn more, and at least be educated, right? If anything.
Yeah, so accessibility is another core value. Accessibility to developers, accessibility to end users. Running a Koinos node is going to be super accessible. So anybody will be able to run a node. In fact, you can run the developer preview today with one command. So that's well within the realm of capability for really any user. It is a developer preview, which means that it's not a fully featured testnet. In fact, the way you can think about it is that this is a testnet for our blockchain framework. And the reason why we had to build this from scratch, you talked about how most people are just copying other things. Even if they're building from scratch, what you'll see is that they're actually borrowing a lot from existing projects, even if it's just the mental model. And so, but we wanted to build basically the world's simplest blockchain. That's distinguishing feature was the ability to talk to a specific type of smart contract that would reprogram these kind of basic implementations of features that live in the blockchain. And so that's why we had to build it from scratch. So, so if you look at the blockchain, right, it doesn't code for a consensus algorithm. Instead, it has a piece that's kind of allocated to things like consensus algorithms. And so you can design smart contracts that tie into that piece and modify the native behavior. And so that's why we had to build this from scratch, because we actually wanted to build like basically, if you took anything out of Koinos, it wouldn't be a blockchain anymore. There's only the stuff you need to be a blockchain, like the cryptography. You have blocks, you have signatures, but everything else is coded up in smart contracts. And so, oh geez, what was the question?
I would we can take some of this.
I got it. So,
okay,
so the testnet will need a consensus algorithm. It will need some kind of basic governance algorithm in order to really be what people expect from a testnet. I'm a developer. I want to start building my decentralized application. Give me what I need to know to build my decentralized application. Right now, what you can see as a developer is how the microservices work. You can start building your own microservice if you're going to need that for your application. You can start understanding how Koinos works, but you can't necessarily actually build your application. So as starting today, the next phase of our development will be adding smart contracts that will code for those types of behaviors. And actually, we will be demonstrating that unique feature of Koinos, what we call modular upgradability, as we move towards testnet and mainnet. So for example, one of the smart contracts we have to develop is a token contract, like the ERC20 protocol on Ethereum, right? We need, like I said, a consensus algorithm, right? So we'll develop smart contracts for these things, and then we'll add them to the testnet, which will be producing blocks, right? So you'll be able to run a node, you'll be able to see blocks go, and then we'll inject a smart contract into the testnet, into a block, and that smart contract will modify the system behavior, and the blockchain will gain that feature, the consensus algorithm, the token contract, and it won't skip a beat. It will keep producing blocks. You won't have to re-index, which if you're not really familiar with blockchain, don't really, that's going to be outside your realm, but that's a hard fork. Now with the testnet, hard forks aren't a big deal. But it's fun to demonstrate that capability will be there when the mainnet launches. And that's when upgrades become a much bigger headache. But say there's a bug in your consensus algorithm. That's really bad. What modular upgradability gives the community is the ability to immediately patch that bug. And no exchanges go down, no nodes go down. The system just gets fixed, and it gets fixed right away. And while we all like to pretend that we can build perfect code, it's just not how the world works, people. And so really modular upgradability in Koinos is really the first blockchain that actually, it conforms to the way that development really works in the real world.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way to end things off. Thank you so much for explaining that. It's certainly a term I haven't heard yet. This concept of your blockchain getting better. I certainly love the idea.
What a weird idea! It's getting better.
Love it. Congrats again for launching your developer preview / early testnet. Excited to see more. Thank you so much, Andrew, for joining us here today. And I'll let you all tune back into the show. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. Great chatting.